part of the Boundless Audio Podcast Network.
Hello, welcome to the Artist Pivot Podcast. My name is Ayana Major-Bay, and I am an actress, voiceover artist, mentor, and your host. This show is a bi-weekly conversation highlighting pivots and life lessons from the perspective of artists, those who work in and around the arts, and arts educators. For those listening who don't consider themselves artists, you can pivot too. Everyone possesses the ability to do so. You just have to be reminded sometimes. All of our life lessons have taught us to be better pivoters, and it is my goal to share these life lessons to guide and inspire others. Here is this week's episode. All right, y'all. So today on the podcast, I have joining me Jermey Ten, and he is a junior national champion, the 2015 Canadian silver medalist, and a two-time world team member. He has traveled the world both competitively and professionally, having toured with Bietak Productions and Cirque du Soleil. Jermey now works as a realtor in one of the world's hottest markets, Vancouver, BC, while still staying involved in the sport he loves through choreography. Y'all, welcome Jermey. Hello.
Hello, Ayana. What an introduction. Thank you for that.
You're so very welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here with you.
Of course. So my first question to you is, if I were to text you right now and say, Jermey, how are you doing? What's going on? How are you feeling? But you could only respond in emojis only, what would you text me? I see that laugh.
Because I'm doing my best not to immediately go somewhere dirty. I would probably send you the emoji when it's like winking and one tongue out, because I'm always in a goofy mood. That's me, goofball central.
Yes. I love it. I love that. I thank you for sending me that imaginary text.
Yes.
And I must say, that's one of my favorite emojis. Like, I like to send that one too, like the wink and the tongue. I'm like, that's perfect.
It means so much. It can like invoke so many different meanings and connotations, and I love that. Like,
Yes, it can. You could be goofy with it. You could be a little flirtatious with it. That emoji's very like, it's multi-dimensional, multi-use.
Multifaceted for sure. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah. Very that.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Thank you. So y'all, I brought Jermey on because, well, number one, we've worked together. But number two, because I wanted to talk about his journey and pivots through, his many careers, because he can say that he's retired from one career, retired at 25, and then went into a performance career, and now he's a realtor. So like, ice skater to performer to realtor. You got to break that down for us, Jermey. Like, how did it start? And like, walk us through how you got where you got.
Gosh, it's so weird to like even think about being like not even in my mid 30s yet, and like having technically retired twice, essentially. Like, whoa. Basically it all started from a very young age. Obviously, my older brother was a hockey player, and me wanting to be, like my older brother, we had a 5-year difference. I naturally followed him onto the ice. Dabbled in some hockey, realized I hated it. Physical sports, not my thing. Don't touch me. But I loved being on the ice, had a natural take for it. And my dad noticed that I would stay behind, watch the figure skating practices. And then after watching figure skating on the 98 Olympics, he was like, you know what? Maybe figure skating is something that he would like to do. And so went into it, got my first pair of figure skates at the age of 9, and then started representing Canada internationally by age 14. And it kind of I never looked back. I just fell in love with it. And what I love about skating is the way that it just so beautifully marries like athleticism and art. And I love both aspects of the sport so much. I love to jump, I love to fly, but at the same time, I love telling a story. I love being able to use my body as a tool to move and to evoke emotions out of people, and give them this sense of emotion without having to say words. I think there's something so cathartic about that.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, and I will say that's kind of why I like figure skating, or I should say love it. I should use the word love, like, I'm not even gonna be shy. I do love figure skating, for the same reason that I think that inspired nine-year-old Jeremy. It's that, like, "Oh, it's so beautiful. It's
Hmm.
athletic, it's art." It's like words, you're just like, "Ah, they're so like, it's just beautiful." Like, l uh, yes. It's beautiful, but
Yeah.
I know it was hard. I know that it was hard, like, watching you skate when we were on the ship together, like, I'd be
Hmm.
like, I was in awe of you all, like, in awe,
Yeah.
like,
Thank
on the
you.
ice.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I mean, same back to you. I had the pleasure of watching you perform every week and sing
Mhm.
with your beautiful, deep, smooth, round voice. And it was such an honor and such a pleasure. And yeah, girl, when you came out singing Brave, I was like, you better sing.
Well, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Yes, I
Yes.
love it. Thank you so much. So I wanted to ask, so of course, okay, figure skating or competitive skating was, your first love and your first, I guess, focus, if you will. And so when did you make the decision, in essence, I would say to pivot, but really to retire? You know, you're like, okay, I think it's my time to retire from competitive skating.
Right. I think for me it was, and go this is basically my first big pivot in life, is,
Yeah,
not making my dream was always to make an Olympic team.
okay.
And I tried both in 2010 and 2014, and unfortunately it just wasn't in the cards for me. And it wasn't that I wasn't good enough.
Mhm,
It was just not the path that I was supposed to take. And
mhm.
basically it comes down to one competition. You train years and years and years for that 3 minutes or that 4 minutes, and it just sometimes just doesn't go your way, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
so at the end of 2014, I had to decide, do I want to leave my career like this, or do I
Mhm,
want to have one more year to finish it the way that I deserve to finish it? And so
mm,
I took a while to make that decision. And when I finally did, I just had three goals, and that was to score a personal best in both the short and free program,
okay.
um, and to land a quad for the first time in competition, and to go back to nationals, my last nationals,
Yeah.
and just skate it for me with no intention of me trying to make an Olympic or world team, just going out there, skating for the people, skating for myself, and enjoying it.
Mhm,
And I am so happy I did that, because I accomplished all of those goals and then
mhm.
some. I ended up placing second at that last nationals, qualifying for my last world championships, my second world championships. And I will never forget that feeling of, like, I was skating to Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley, that
Yes.
cover.
Yeah,
And I'll never forget just like finishing my last combination spin, taking my ending pose, and had my eyes closed because I just wanted to hear the audience.
yeah,
And it was like I couldn't even hear my music. It was such a surreal moment, and the best way I could have ended my last national championships.
yeah.
And then obviously going on to compete at worlds and everything was even more of a blessing, that I couldn't had no idea I was capable of that again. So it was great.
Yes, yes.
But
Oh,
yeah.
that gave me chills as you described that.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, yeah. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to move on. There are a lot
Mhm,
of great juniors coming up in the competition, and it's time for them to have the spotlight.
mhm,
And I just knew that at my age, it was time. I mean, that year in 2015, after I retired, the press release came out
mhm.
that I was retiring. Got possession of my keys to my own apartment,
Uh-huh.
and I was crossing the stage to get my degree, all on the same day, June 12th, 2015. So it was like, it's time. Yeah,
Wow.
I remember standing on the edge of that like stage before I crossed and just being like, once you get to the other side, you're a grown adult. You're a grown man. I need to
Yeah,
figure this out. So yeah.
yeah. Oh, wow. Wow, it all happened on the same day.
Yeah. Yeah. What are the chances, right? Yeah.
Right. Oh, wow. So knew it was, how do I put this? Like, in your heart space, in your mind, that you were like, "Okay,
Mhm.
this is it." And you were fine with it because you had for me, and this is what I'm getting from you just explaining that you, made goals for yourself and you reached those goals and you kind of had it, I guess, settled. You're like, okay, an Olympic run isn't for me,
Mhm.
but I can set my own goals to achieve before I, move on to the next part of my life. Is that correct?
Correct. And,
Okay.
I think obviously it was a disappointment not going to the Olympics. And because
Mhm.
that was, again, that was my dream, walking into an opening ceremonies representing Canada, my country, and with my teammates. But whenever I have that kind of, whenever I look back and I kind of have that feeling like, oh, I wish I did that, it's like, okay, well, when I look at my career as a whole, and if I was given the opportunity to do it all over again, knowing that I wasn't going to make an Olympic team, would I do it? And 1,000 times, yes. A
Ooh.
1,000 times, yes.
Yes.
Because you do that for what you love. It's not. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, I loved it so much, and I had such a passion for it that that trumped
Mhm.
anything else. And it gave
Yeah.
me all these experiences, like traveling the world, meeting so many incredible people, um, like yourself. And yeah, it afforded me so many things in life and taught me so many life lessons that I wouldn't have had if I never did it, Olympics
Ooh.
or not. Right? So,
Oh, yes, right. I don't I don't know if y'all can't see me, but I just teared up at that.
oh, stop.
Oh, I just tear because it's like, would you still have done it knowing you're like, you're not gonna make it to the Olympics, but this chunk of your life is gonna teach you so much and give you so many experiences and introduce you to people around the world that you're like, "Heck yeah, I'd still do it, even though I know I'm not gonna get to that perceived, like, goal."
Mhm,
Ah, and
mhm.
that's applicable to so many things. So
Absolutely,
many things.
absolutely.
Would you still do this or go down this path if this, for instance, if you weren't gonna make it to Broadway, or if you weren't going to have your art displayed in MoMA, or if you weren't gonna win an Oscar, would you still do it?
Right.
Ah, I love it, Jeremy, I love
And
it.
yeah, and you truly love it. You know your heart's in the right place if that answer is yes,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So,
Right. Right. Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing. That
of
I'm in an
course.
emotional space right now. I am, honey, I am. So my next question to you would be, okay, you're retired. You're like, I'm retired. I'm free. What did you do? What was your next step?
So here's the second pivot in my life was, yeah, this is my first retirement, and, I think I really needed to just step away from everything and
Mhm.
just find myself again, because
Mhm.
this was such a, I mean, my whole identity was figure skating.
Yeah.
And so I'm now in my mid-20s, and I never got to have a separate life outside of that, really.
Mhm.
And so I decided just to take a year off, still skate, but live a life where I wasn't heavily regimented by a schedule, or I could just go out and party on a Friday night and not have to worry about the repercussions of trying to recover for 2 days for training on Monday.
Yeah.
And so I took a year to just do that. I took a year to have a yes year and just to have fun, travel a bit with my friends. Um, and I think that was the best decision I could have made for myself, because it made me appreciate what I had before even more.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it led me to wanting to go back to skating and pursue a professional career.
Yeah.
And you know what? Honestly, if I'm being completely honest,
Yeah.
it was supposed to be like a one and done kind of thing. Like one contract, I'm done. I saw what it was like. It was
Uh-huh.
cute. I'm ready
Uh-huh.
to move on. But no, it ended up, as you know, being way more than that. And again, it was, you can't deny what you love and what you have a
Mhm.
passion for. And that was for me performing. So
Yes.
that's what led me to my next career in professional skating
Mhm. Mhm. Oh, yes. I love so yeah, you just did what you love in a different
capacity.
format, different
Yeah.
capacity.
Mhm.
Yes, which oh, that's great. I love that as well. And so, I didn't see you perform with Cirque, but I saw you perform on the ship, which, y'all, I know we talked about this a little earlier in the episode, but I still can't get over it. Like, some of the things okay, y'all, the ice rink. Just picture this okay, so visualization. Here we go. The ice rink was in the middle of a cruise ship, like, on I think the lowest level for, like, for passenger access, I believe.
Deck
Was
2,
it
I think, was a
deck
backstage
2? Yeah,
entrance,
the
right?
back,
And then deck
yeah.
3, deck 4
4,
was
yeah.
like kind of the rink and above. Yeah.
Yes, great. I'm glad you remembered that. I didn't remember that. Uh,
You're like
but
trying to like clear it all out of your.
I'm like, "Ah, it's gone, it's gone. I don't
It's
know what the
gone.
ship looks like anymore." But y'all, the ice rink was on the cruise ship, and these beautiful ice skaters were whipping around the ice and had costume changes, and like I couldn't tell you how
With
many
each
times I
other.
saw the show. They were throwing each other around, they were flipping and turning and singing, actually lip syncing. Like they were doing it all on ice.
Cartwheeling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and I think what people don't like, I think it's very also important to paint the picture that it's not a standard size rink. It's literally like, I don't know, probably if we were to measure maybe like a sixth of the size of an NHL
Oh,
sized rink. Like it was like an
wow.
ice cube. And we had a cast of, I don't know, 12 or 13 and we made it work.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it was
Yes.
fun.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Oh, great. I love it. I love it. So in that capacity, you performed the Royal Caribbean first before you did Cirque du Soleil, correct?
Did, yes, I did 3 contracts with Royal and Willie Bietak Productions.
Okay, okay,
And then yeah,
okay. Got it. And then you moved on to Cirque. So
correct.
Cirque was what you were doing before the pandemic hit, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So then that's when another pivot came in. I mean, we all kind of
Yeah.
had to pivot. That forced us all to pivot. Yours were voluntary before, but
Mhm.
now we got a forced pivot on us. And so what happened next?
So yeah, we were on the start, just about to start our third leg of tour with Cirque du Soleil,
Mhm.
and I played the antagonist Vi in the production. I had a character role, which was amazing, and um, unfortunately, as we were starting, like we got called into a meeting the second day of being back. We were in Bakersfield, California, never
Mhm.
forget. And they called us in for a meeting and they're like, so I don't know if you've heard, but there's a possible pandemic that's happening. We're going to cancel the next 2 shows. We're going to go to Vegas. It's going to be all right. And then we'll just pick up the show from there. And we're all like, Vegas, score, let's do
Great.
this. Let's pack
Uh-huh.
up now. Let's get on the bus. Let's go. And then the next day they called us back for a meeting and they were like, just kidding. You're going home for 8 months. And then we were like, oh,
Oh,
oh God.
okay.
Yeah, it all happened so fast. And
Mhm.
so unfortunately I got sent home and kind of was just twiddling my thumbs in my apartment, trying to stay in shape, watching YouTube ab videos, going to the park playground and trying to do workouts in the evening when nobody was there.
Mhm.
Um, and then eventually after 6 months, realizing that we're not going back,
Mhm.
I just had to make the decision to kind of have a backup plan. And I'd always dabbled in the idea of going into real estate and becoming a realtor.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I had a chat with my very good friend Spencer, who I've known for years, years and years, and he's like a little brother to me. He was in the process of getting his license.
Hmm.
And so we talked it through and he kind of made it seem very tangible. And next thing I knew, I just took that first step and I enrolled and it all happened so fast. It was like 4 months later, I wrote the exam, I passed. And then in May, so that was in October, that I started this journey. And then May following year, I was licensed. So all happened in like 7 months total. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, you took that first step and it was like, okay, here you go.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're off to the races.
Yeah, and I so much have skating to thank for that because
Mhm.
skating has taught me so much in terms of what you can accomplish when you put your mind to something and the discipline and determination it takes to achieve your goals. So I just used what I had in my toolbox and I just applied it to this new career and this new kind of path for myself, and it just kept putting one foot in front of the other, and it just
Yeah.
worked out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here we are a year later. I've been just celebrated my first full year in real estate at the end of May, and it was incredible. So, yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. And I love that you just use the tools in your toolbox.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a perfect phrase. Like, I use the tools that were in my toolbox from figure skating
Mhm.
and performing and going like, "Okay, well, I can use these over here."
Right.
Yes.
Right. I honestly feel like there are so many transferable skills between figure skating and real estate actually. Like,
Mhm,
you know, your in skating so much is about the way you look and your appearance and first impressions to the judges and performing. And that's very much the same as in real estate. Like you've got to look the part, you've got to know what
mhm,
you're doing, you've got to rehearse, you've got to have everything like ready to go. And so I very much borrow a lot of what I had in skating and apply it to my everyday life in real estate. It
mhm,
really does go hand in hand, I find.
mhm, mhm. Understood, understood, understood. Yeah, so, like, I guess what is my question? It's more of a statement. More of like that you going into real estate, it's like, "Oh, I've done this before." Like, not the real estate part, but the prep. Like, "Oh, I know what I have to look like. I know come" like, you didn't have to learn that aspect, if you will, of
Hmm.
showing up, performing, giving a good impression. You
Right.
already knew that from other jobs that you have retired from, other careers you've retired from. You've already learned that and brought those skills with you.
Exactly. Like I said, I just took what I already knew what to do,
Mhm,
and I
mhm,
took what I've learned in my lessons as a professional skater or a competitive skater, and I
mhm,
just applied. And that's the end of the day. I didn't reinvent the wheel. I didn't try to become somebody that I wasn't already. I just
mhm,
stayed true to who I was, and I just used everything that I've already learned in my past experiences and just applied it into what I was going to do next. And a big part of that is just having goals and having dreams and like taking everything one step at a time. With real estate, it was like, okay, my goal is to enroll. And then
mhm,
after that, okay, my goal is to pass the exam by this date. And then, so it's the SMART goal, it's quantifiable, you can measure it. And
mhm,
then my next goal was to get licensed by this date. And it just kept going. I just kept making one goal after the other and made it attainable. I think that's the most
mhm.
important thing. And then it just kept snowballing.
Right, right. Yes. Oh, I love that, and the wheel kept turning, the wheel that
Mhm.
you didn't reinvent, you just redecorated it, as I like to say.
Right. Bedazzled it, just,
We
added
bedazzled
some
it.
jewels.
Exactly.
Yeah,
A little bit of
exactly.
color, some sparkle here, we'll add some okay, great. That's all you did,
Some
you didn't reinvent
glitter.
it. Glitter, right, all of
Nope.
the glitter,
I
you
just
didn't
made it I just made it prettier. Just like a skating costume.
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
I love it, I love it. So, my next question to you would be, are there any poignant life lessons that you're like, "Oh, girl, I'm still learning this one," or, like, one that you're like, "That took me a while to learn, but y'all, I got it."
I think there are two that I can think of. I think one of them is a life lesson that I learned early on was like, as a professional athlete, we go through injuries.
Mhm,
That's just part of the business. And so a big one that I dealt with is I had a bone enmeshment surgery on my right ankle,
okay.
and then that forced me off the ice for 3 to 4 months. And then coming back from that, like not even 2 weeks back on the ice, I had a freak accident, fell, and I had a spiral fracture in my left foot. Yep,
No.
one after the other. So I was like, that again forced me off the ice for another 3 to 4 months. And I remember it would have been so easy to just throw in the towel and be like, you know what, I'm done. Like, I
Mhm,
can't come back from this.
mhm,
But and it was very much like that. My first night in the hospital, the next day they were gonna cut me open, put in some plates and screws, and I was like,
mhm,
there's no way I'm coming back. And I don't know what changed
mhm.
after I woke up the next day, but I was like, not today, not today, sis.
Uh-huh.
And so I made a decision that I was gonna keep going. I was gonna at least fight because I owed that to myself.
Mhm,
And I made some calls. I got out of the hospital. We reevaluated, ended up being able to heal it without having to do surgery, which I think saved
okay.
my career.
Yeah.
So thankfully, I made the right calls. And I ended up like 2 months being back on the ice. I won our provincial title, qualified for national qualifiers,
Mhm.
ended up winning national qualifiers. And then 5 months of being back on the ice, I ended up placing third at nationals that year. So,
Good.
like you've got to just, the life lesson is like, you've got to just keep going. Like, no matter
Mhm,
how hard it gets, no matter what obstacle or setback is in your way, just
mhm.
pick up your foot, step over the obstacle, and just keep going. just run.
Listen, okay, y'all didn't see that, but Jeremy did an amazing example of like stepping over the obstacle. That was a nice pointed foot you had there, Jeremy. Step over the obstacle and keep on going. I'm so here
or
for it.
or leap, do a split leap if you want,
Yep.
do a little turn, like a half turn, land at one foot and then keep going. But, like, yeah, just whatever, the more that you can come back from your setbacks, the sweeter
Mhm.
that victory is going to taste.
Mhm.
And just, it shows you how much you can do when you can overcome these obstacles and achieve greatness and then
Yes.
take that into your everyday life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then what's your second one? You said you had 2.
I think another, and then the second life lesson for me is just I've always struggled a little bit with self worth
Mhm.
for myself, and I think that stems from I'm gay and I'm Asian and I'm have immigrant parents, which that grew up in a different time, grew up in a different space, and not as understanding. And so for
Mhm.
me, it was like, okay, maybe if I excel exponentially at these other aspects of my life, that'll make up for my gayness. And
Mhm.
I thought of that as like a detriment to who I was.
Mhm.
And then, you know, I realized, and it's been recent that I actually made that decision to finally have that conversation with my parents. Like I've been out to everybody else, like cats, dogs, like
Everybody.
everybody
Mhm.
and their pets. Like,
Yes.
and so when I finally made that decision, I realized that fear was, although valid at the time,
Mhm.
was very internalized, and that I really shouldn't look to other people to get that validation,
Mhm.
to get that sense of my self-worth. And I
Mhm.
think having come through with this revelation, it's like now I have this confidence to tackle these pivots more seamlessly in my life,
Yeah.
right? So
Right.
I think that's always going to be something that people are going to struggle with self-worth. But I think you just got to know that you are enough, that I am enough, and that we are
Mhm.
all enough in our
Mhm.
own skin, and just live that beautifully.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, well said. Well said. I love that. And I was gonna ask you, but I think you answered the question. 'Cause I was like, "What's your little nugget to leave with people?" And I think you already said it.
Oh, yeah, there's that. And there's
Yeah.
also, I think my main one is like,
Yes.
just like I said before, just keep putting one foot in front of the other and take that
Mhm.
first step, because you never
Mhm.
know where that step is
Mhm.
going to lead you. And I've had to take many first steps in my life.
Yeah.
First step onto the ice, first step towards learning a new trick,
Ooh. Yeah.
first step into real estate.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're going to walk, sometimes you're going to run, but you don't know until you take that first step.
Mhm.
So I think that's what it is. Just take that first step and then just keep putting one foot in front of the other and just keep going.
Right. Right. That's it. Oh,
That's
y'all
it.
I got a smile on my face. I love it. I'm just like, "Mhm, come on, keep going." I love like, it's that, like, putting one foot in front of the other, but I also think that we as humans, of course, there is a fear there of like, "But if I take the first step, then what do I do?" And most of the time, we don't need to answer, "Then what do I do?" It's just take the
Exactly.
first step and it will be revealed to you.
Very that. Like that's so true. Like you don't always have to have the answer. But
Mhm.
if you have goals and you have like an idea of where you want to go, that's answer enough,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? It doesn't
Yeah,
have to be so clear cut in the beginning.
yeah. 'Cause then that doesn't leave room for, like, adventure. Like, that doesn't
Mhm.
leave room for, like, things
Error.
to yeah, yes, yeah.
Like honestly, like our trials and tribulations, our failures, that's what makes it fun. And that's what makes it interesting. And I think people need to not be scared to make a mistake,
Mhm.
because that is where you're going to learn the most and you're going to grow the most. Like I would
Mhm.
not be where I am today if I did not fail. And let me tell you how many times I failed,
Uh-huh.
even trying to just to learn a new jump, the amount of times, and people don't see this, the amount of times you fall before you master a skill for the first time.
Uh-huh.
So don't
Uh-huh.
be scared to fail. Fail all you want. Just as long as you're learning and you're growing and you get back up,
Right.
you're good. You're good.
Right. And you're gonna master it. Like, you're gonna master it. And, like, also with you saying that, that's what my brain goes to now. Like, as a performer, watching anybody do, like, a trick or a stunt or, like, a turn, I'd be like, "How many times did they practice that?" Like, I wonder how many bruises did they bruise on where did they fall? How did they that's where my brain goes now.
The answer is too many. Like, the average time it takes for somebody to master a double axel is like, it could be a year, it could be 2 years. It's a long.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It took me 6 months. No, I'm kidding.
Insert hair flip here. I did it in 6 months.
No, I'm kidding. But 6 months of a lot of falling,
Yeah.
and a lot of getting back up and trying again and again and again. And yeah,
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. Jeremy, thank you so much for sharing.
thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure. It's been so great reconnecting with you.
Yes, yes, it has. Yes, it has. So before I let you go, two things. First, where can people find you on these social media streets?
Okay, so on Instagram, you can find me at Jermey Ten. Or if you want to follow my real estate career, you can follow me at jeremey10.realestate. And then you can also check out my website at jeremey10.ca. And if you're bored, I don't really use this anymore that much, but Twitter, I'm J3R3BEAR, Jer Bear. I created it when I was like a young little thing, okay? So don't judge me.
No judgments here. No judgments here. I will
Yeah.
put that all in the show notes, everybody. Don't worry. You could just click and be able to follow. And then I must say to you that I acknowledge you, I celebrate you, and I uplift you.
That is so beautiful. That just gave me like the little, oh, that just gave me such beautiful emotions in my heart. Thank you so much. And back to you. Back
You're
to
so
you.
very welcome, and thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Please feel free to visit this episode's show notes for links to get in touch with my guest, as well as a link to rate and review my podcast on Podchaser. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, all you have to do is scroll down to the rate and review section. You can find and connect with me on Instagram at The Artist Pivot to see audiograms, fun facts, and posts featuring my guest. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already to get notified when a new episode is out. And please share this episode with at least one friend. For those who are working on their mental health and well-being, on a journey of facing your fears, or trying therapy for the first time, our show sponsor BetterHelp is here to help you. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. So you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. BetterHelp makes professional therapy accessible and affordable with 20,000 plus therapists in their network, and the ability to request a new therapist at no additional charge anytime. I have found that therapy is a tool to use to improve your life in one of the healthiest ways. So join the 2 million plus people who have taken charge of their mental health with an experienced BetterHelp therapist. So many people use BetterHelp that they are currently recruiting additional therapists in all 50 states. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/artistpivot. That's betterhelp.com/artistpivot. Ever heard the phrase found time? Well, Audible helps you find the time to get more stories and information while commuting, cooking, gardening, exercising, etc. Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digest, as well as guided meditation programs. They have podcasts, theatrical performances, A-list comedy, and exclusive Audible originals you won't find anywhere else. Fun fact, if you listened to every title on Audible, you'd be listening for more than 3 centuries. So click the link in the show notes or visit audibletrial.com/theartistpivot to start your 30-day free trial of Audible and listen to that book you haven't read yet or laugh at a comedy special while doing the dishes. Again, that's audibletrial.com/theartistpivot. Using the link lets Audible know that we sent you and a great way to support the show. This episode was edited by Kieran Niemand and produced by me, Ayana Major Bay. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll speak to you soon.